So in the earlier part of my life, I really prided myself on doing school with as little work as possible. I was like, you nerds, I was like, you guys needed to study. I can walk in and hit a 91 with no study. And I'll tell you the story that really changed my life. So there's a guy named Kemp, he was like, and hopefully Kemp, maybe you'll see this. I gave Kemp a hard time. I did when I was in high school. And he was a kid who didn't catch on to stuff as fast. And you know what, Kemp's a successful guy now, he's done great. But this thing happened. So all of high school, I kind of gave this guy a hard time. And when we went to go apply to colleges, I wanted to go to Duke. So Duke's a top 5 school in the US, and I didn't get into Duke. I ended up going to Vanderbilt, which is also obviously a great school, but I wanted to go to Duke. And guess who got into Duke? Kemp not. And so what was really interesting is that this whole time, like Kemp would go to study hall, he'd be like, teacher, you forgot to assign his homework. Like he was that guy, right? And I honestly just really disliked him, but mostly because it probably just reminded me of my own inadequacies of like, I was just unwilling to do the amount of work that he was. And I shamed him for doing the amount of work that he did. I was like, you have to work so hard just to try and come close to me, right? But in the end, he got into the better college. And so it was this really humbling lesson for me that none of the colleges cared that I worked less than him. They just cared about who had the best applications and who had the best grades. And it was this really very eye-opening experience. And so when I went to college, I had a different frame that I was like, well, I'm not gonna lose. I wanna go here and I wanna maximize. I wanna study all the hours of the day that I'm not in class, at the gym, or at the cafeteria. I'm in the library. And you can ask anyone that I ever went to school with if you ever meet them. That's where I was. I was in the library 12 hours a day because I was like, well, if I just study more than everyone, I'll get good grades. And that worked out pretty good. That's just kind of just a little bit of framing around why I have such a strong affinity for more. Now, I'll give you a second, kind of a little bit more heady reason. So I talked about how more is the highest risk-adjusted return. I talked about how diminishing returns are still returns. They're still output, right? The next piece though is that change has a fixed cost and a variable reward. All right, so let me explain what that means. So I want you to imagine that this line right here, ooh, nice and wet, how I like it. My markers, calm down guys. Okay, so I've got this line. This represents your revenue or whatever your current level of activity or output is. Okay, now, what happens is most entrepreneurs, they say, you know what, I'm gonna change something. They think they're gonna change something and things are gonna get better, right? You tweak something, you mess around, you change your page, change your script, change your onboarding process, whatever, right? So then what happens? Well, if there's people involved, typically output will go down. You have to retrain the team, they have to practice, this variable affected 2 other variables you didn't know about. And this is completely based on my observation. You typically get about a 20% decrement or decrease in performance. What ends up happening after that is it might not work and then you stay here, or it might be worse and it goes here, or it might get better and it comes back up eventually, right? And then maybe you have a 5% higher output here. This is now your new baseline. Now, here's the thing. If you have a 20% guaranteed decrease and you have the potential for a 5% increase, do you take that bet? No. But I see entrepreneurs every day, myself included, for many years, taking that bet over and over again because I was like, I just have to get it better. I just have to get it better. But it was a fallacy. It's not true. Sometimes, your business will never be perfect and you have to accept that fact. It will not be perfect. And the thing is you don't even know if it's gonna get better. You just aren't sure if it's quote good enough, and so you just want to